Being worldly wise and playing safe eventually harms oneself. Confucius said, "I set my aspirations on the way, base myself on virtue, rely on benevolence, and relax in the arts." Laozi said, "Virtue comes after the loss of the way. Benevolence comes after the loss of virtue. Righteousness comes after the loss of benevolence. And propriety comes after the loss of righteousness." The way and virtue are the foundation of benevolence and righteousness. Understanding the way leads one to act accordingly, achieving the unity of knowledge and action. This is virtue. With virtue, one develops compassion and empathy towards others. This is benevolence. With benevolence, principles and understandings for actions are formed. This is righteousness. There are two types of being worldly wise and playing safe. The first type refers to those who lack benevolence, righteousness, and conscience. In order to protect their own and their family's interests, such as property, reputation, and safety, they disregard and may even harm others' interests. The second type of people also lack benevolence, but due to education, they understand what is righteousness and what is conscience. However, they don't practice righteousness. They ignore their conscience. In order to protect their own and their family's interests, they disregard and may even harm others' interests. For many Chinese people, being worldly wise and playing safe are their most important life principles. Those corrupt officials, in order to maintain their positions, status, and salaries, have lost their sense of justice and conscience. They do whatever their superiors ask of them, using so-called principles to justify their actions, going with the flow, following the crowd, and harming others. Although some officials are not corrupt, they also play it safe. Very few people stand up for justice, act bravely for a just cause, or step forward when needed. In principle, the judicial institutions of a country, including judges, prosecutors, lawyers, and police, are supposed to be the primary forces to uphold social justice. If these people betray their conscience and play safe, the society is not far from chaos and decline. Throughout history, those who were worldly wise and played safe all eventually harmed themselves. Not to mention ancient times. Let's just look at the recent cultural revolution. Everyone wanted to protect themselves, but in the end, everyone suffered immensely, and no one was spared from the decade-long catastrophe. This history is quite close to us, so you should see it clearly. If back then everyone had upheld justice, maintained their conscience, and not played it safe, how could the Cultural Revolution have happened? Even if someone had tried to initiate it, it would not have succeeded. The wheel of causality will turn back to yourself. If you are wronged and have nowhere to appeal, it's because you usually play safe and don't uphold justice. Consequently, when you are harmed by others and need someone to help you uphold justice, nobody will help you. This is your karmic consequence. If you are wronged and nobody helps you address it, you should reflect on yourself. Don't blame others. This is your own karmic consequence. You reap what you sow. In ancient times, when righteous officials encountered political darkness, they would resign from their post and go home to be a farmer, like Tao Yanming. They would rather go home to be a farmer than get involved in corruption. As human beings, we should have integrity and the courage that would rather sell sweet potatoes than get involved in corruption against our conscience. Otherwise, the karmic consequences will ripen on yourself. You might become someone else's scapegoat, be despised, bullied, and framed. At that time, you might feel wronged, but actually you deserve it, don't you? What were you doing before? Were you really unable to survive? Previously, you ignored your conscience and played it safe. What's the use of feeling wronged now? In fact, it is you who doesn't respect yourself and doesn't consider yourself a human being. We have all read Water Margin, where ancient Chinese people valued chivalry and considered standing up for justice a virtue. Unfortunately, this is already gone in today's China. How pathetic. In the near future, the consequences will arise.